Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for coming out.
No, thanks for having me.
And just for the listeners, I'm starting this not just for the creatives, but for the people who are listening and getting the product that we're putting out. And what I wanted to do is get some, of course, some of my favorite creatives, and I'm gonna get them to actually break down what they mean behind what they write. So that was the purpose for this. So we'll start with, who are you?
I'm Angelina Dawn. Yeah. I am a poet, an actress, a mom, and an author. I am a all-around learning creative. Yeah.
And for someone just meeting you, how would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Angelina Dawn. I'm extremely manic most of the time. No, let's stop. I'm just a woman. I'm a woman finding herself right now. And I do that by being a creative. I do that through writing, through showing others how art can heal. I'm really huge on that arts can be used for entertainment, but even more than just entertainment, for communion, for healing, to communicate to people that we don't know that well, to mend bridges. So I don't know, I think if someone didn't know me, I would just tell them that I am an all-around learning creative.
So with that, using creativity at this point of your life to find yourself, can you talk to me about that a little bit? Because you gave out a few things such as poetry, acting, author, different things like that. Since what we're talking about today is poetry, how has poetry helped you get to the point of right now where you're kind of discovering yourself?
Poetry gives me a voice. You know, it offered me a safe space when I didn't have it growing up. When, you know, I always go back to this story of when I was in 9th grade and I was getting into like a lot of trouble. Like, you know, you're like 14, 15, you're in this like really weird space anyways, because you're 14 and 15. It doesn't even matter what's going on. So just adding in the fact of hormones, high school, mean kids, you know.
I stayed in trouble.
Man, stayed in trouble. Stayed in trouble. And then my home life was a little different. At the time, I had been separated from my mom for like maybe 6 years. So those crucial times I didn't have either one of my parents. And so no siblings. I had them, but I didn't have them around me. So like, I really felt alone. And so I got in so much trouble. I was about to be suspended. And my principal gave me a journal, and she would make me come to her office once a day for an entire year and write. And so it gave me a space to like a different option than being kicked out of school, you know, and it gave me a safe space to express. Principal. No, seriously. Like,
so you would say that's your start? In writing.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't start there. I started in elementary school. I did. I started writing when I was 9, because that's what they start teaching you, like, you know, little poems and stuff. But my really heavy
is working on rhyming words. So,
listen, and let them. My sons do it. Like my youngest son, he's nonverbal, but he picks up on melody very well. He will hum melody. And if you put on a song, he'll be like, So, no, for real, like, this is him. So, like, let them do that. It's super dope. My oldest son, instead of writing, he does painting. He's a painter. But yeah, no, I think poetry gives me a voice. I think not only does it give me a voice to express myself, but I have been blessed to be able to understand other people and express their stories through writing too, or what I pick up as an empath. So it may not even be their perspective, but what I got from it.
Gotcha.
You know, or communicating to people in ways that I really just can't have a conversation.
I wanted to ask a few poets that I'm close to. For me, I've always like just jotted down ideas, questions that I may have. But for me, what kind of got me into writing and performing poetry was I was at a point in my life where there was something that I really wanted to communicate to someone, but for whatever reason, at that time I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking to poetry from that point. And shout out to Kayla Jones. We worked together some years ago, but she actually was talking to me at that time about how she would write poetry. And between her and Nikos Hawkins, between the two of them, I just kind of thought, maybe I should try writing it this way.
Yeah.
You know, and from that, I went ahead and I started actually trying to write some poetry, and I would share it with some of my friends and who are all creatives as well, and they would all respond like, "Oh,
Yeah. No, your stuff is fire.
Yeah,
Your stuff is fire. You and Nikos, like y'all are,
that's my brother."
y'all one of my favorites. Two of my
Yeah.
favorites, definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But the
Yeah.
question is, would you say that with poetry, and from what I'm hearing from how you started, that a lot of it has to do with at least wanting to say something but not having an outlet to do that?
To be honest, I think that maybe 60 to 70% of the things that I want to say to people, they would not listen if it wasn't in a creative form. They have to be drawn in. A lot of the times you got to be drawn in. They will not listen. They won't sit still long enough. They won't sit down their pride long enough. They want to be entertained. And then they get to a space, and if they interact with me, you'll be entertained until a certain point. And then you're going to listen.
And we don't have to dig too deep into that, but why do you think that is? That they have to be entertained to listen?
I think a lot of the times we want to feel good. We want to be able not to think, you know, and a lot of the times that's through entertainment. That's through listening to something that maybe you did create or maybe you didn't create, but in that moment in time, you don't have to think about it. It can carry you somewhere. It can transport you to a place where what happened yesterday just doesn't matter right now. What I have to do later has no premise right now. And so if you can get people in a space like that, and you know how to work that space, you'll be good.
Yeah, working in space is just as important.
Yeah,
that's a lesson to be learned. It really is. But before we, and I think that's a good point to move to your piece that you shared called Dynasty. Before we do that, since you were talking about people not listening, can you talk to us a little bit about the listening?
Yes. So the listening, I have the honor and privilege to be one of the leaders of the listening. And we are a nonprofit whose mission is to engage, change, and save lives through using the performing arts. And so we'll do that with youth engagement, community engagement, youth programming, adult programming. It can look like open mics,
And
book
you guys were at
clubs.
the college recently, right?
Yes, so we do have a yearly reading program at Randolph College, and this year we're doing Freedom to Learn. So we're doing an adult track as well as a youth track. So we're all taking 2 books and we're going to read them together. And it's not on the same schedule, but it's just a chance for us to like really enlighten ourselves. And then talk about it, you know, afterwards. But the listening is one of the spaces that gave me a voice.
Right.
I remember interacting with the listening maybe 6 years ago in a different facet where I ran a company and we partnered for something together. But it first taught me what arts advocacy looks like. And I advocate for creatives, for them to have safe spaces to release themselves, for them to have spaces not just to release their art, but to actually work on their art. Right. Becoming better people through their art, using their art to really change the world and in your community. And I think that we're in an era where artists are starting to understand what advocacy looks like and using their art to do such. And so that's a lot about what we do at the listening.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what was the saying?
The what?
The saying.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Anywhere we go, anybody we interact with, if you had a room full of people willing to listen to you, what would you say? Yeah.
My first performance was with the listening at the Anne Frank House. And
that's a special place.
It is. And when I heard Nick say that for the first time, I really was just kind of stuck like, what did I say? And yeah,
Yeah.
Shout out to Nick George.
Man.
Definitely. So
The GOAT. That's the GOAT.
let's get into it. Because I really like this Dynasty piece.
Thank you. To God be the glory. I really appreciate that.
So, and this part can be clipped out or not.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
do you have it memorized? Do you want to read it? How do you want to do it? Because what I initially planned, and this could change. I'm not stuck to that. Was I was going to.
I can read it.
Okay.
I can read it, and I memorized most of it.
Okay.
So, but I have it here too,
Gotcha.
just in case.
And I have it pulled up too if you want to use this.
Ooh, I got it.
And we're gonna just this first part here. You can read through that. We'll talk about that a bit. And there's another part down here you could talk about. That's
Cool. Where do you want me to go to?
it. Just start at the beginning.
Okay. Do you want me to? Do you want to stop me, or do you want me to stop at a certain place?
I can stop.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Dynasty. Then, now, and forevermore. Black pearl, yellow glow, hiding in the undertones of a narrative. There your battle goes. Who would have known that the copy and paste culture vultures would duplicate our tone? Oh, was that low?
Can you talk about it? Break that down. Break that down.
Dynasty, man.
And let's start
okay,
right up
so
at the
we
top.
are, man, we're Dynasty. Like, are these beautiful people of color. Like, we are literally, royalty now, back then, going forward. And when I said hiding in the undertones of a narrative, I'm talking about the narrative that media wants to give us. We're literally the undertone of it because that's the position they have placed us in for so long, was literally enough to take from us, which is,
The foundation of it.
the foundation, the copy and paste culture vultures. Like, I'm going to take certain aspects of your culture. I like the way you do your hair. Okay, I like that. I like the tan a little bit.
Yeah.
I like the style. I like the music.
And this space is safe to say that
Yeah.
it was talked down on by cultures outside of ours.
Yeah.
And like you said, they will take it and just throw it on as if they hadn't played it down for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to say those things,
Yeah.
being that dynasty. And when I hear dynasty, I think of kingdom. I think of structure of family is what I think of when I hear that.
Yeah. And I wanted to put it at the beginning because I wanted that to be the introduction. Like, when you hear it, like, you sit straight up. It's like a calling. Like, okay, let's get together. Open your ears.
When you perform it, that's the vibe. Like, as soon as you
God
start,
be the
it's just
glory.
like it's one of those things.
Chest
So,
up,
yeah.
man. Like, yeah, definitely. Oh, let me finish. Sweet music, heavy taste, dance over beats, colors and sizes of every rainbow shade. We look great, don't we? Are you still lost? Well, that's a shame. Because those of us who have this magic running in our veins know exactly what I mean when I say the blacker the berry, the heavier the weight.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. What did you mean there? What did you mean? The blacker the berry, the heavier the weight.
So everyone knows the coin phrase, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. But I think that the more that we get invested in our identity, the more impactful we become. And I think the more we become invested in who we are, we get blacker every single time.
Yeah.
And we get heavy every single time. Like, I just really think we are some powerful people. And I know that because I feel powerful.
Yeah.
The more I learn about myself and where I come from. And I'm not saying, and I think there's a misconception when people say where we come from, that we automatically think about generations back. No, I'm thinking about my mom. I'm thinking about my dad, how they were, brought up.
Yeah.
Certain instances like that direct lineage. And so, that's basically where it came from. Like, the more we start to learn about ourselves, the more weight we carry to use. So, yeah.
And it seemed, I'll just ask, is that like a twofold kind of message in there, as in speaking to Black people. This is kind of the evolution of, but also speaking to people who are outside of the culture, telling them that there is weight to, that comes with the Blackness.
It is. It's not always easy, especially when you're just trying to find yourself within like a whole identity being changed as well. Like it's a lot. It's a lot to carry.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we know. we know. Man. Because trying to erase what was originally made is a sin in itself that will never return as anything other than bitter lemonade. Make your characters to mock and play. We're still planted high. No need to deliver shade. We were never taught to play with the help anyways. You see the glow, you feel our stride. This was birthed from the mother side. You hear the diction. You recognize this frame. We're not here to cause any friction. I mean, let's really think about it. Is it really the truth without a little conviction? And no, we won't allow anything to happen just to occupy a space when we can build our own. Royalty and beauty. Oh, how I love my people who never had much to say, because at the end of the day, when you attempted to run to our side to hide from the rain, we already left you behind, sunshine. Dynasty. Black pearl, yellow glow. Many attempts to duplicate our undertones. Some of us are born with it. The rest of them play make-believe. This is one of my favorites. This is definitely one of my favorites. Yeah.
That's why when you sent those, I had to pick this one.
I'm glad you picked this one. It is one of my favorites. What gets me is when I do the Black of the Berry, and then I did it at Henry Street Festival. That's why I love our people. I did it at Henry Street Festival, and I did Black of the Berry, and then everyone was like, sweeter the juice. And I would hit them with the heavier the weight. They start falling out. They're like, oh man, because I love it. I love it.
That one definitely gets people. Let's see. You recognize this frame. We are not here to cause any friction. I mean, let's really think about it. Is it really the truth without a little conviction? Let's talk about it. What did you mean?
I think that, okay, so personally, as a Black woman, in certain spaces, I can be intimidating. And I don't think the intimidation is out of behavior. I think it's out of assumption. And I think that happens to a lot of Black women, especially. I mean, really, I really do. I think that we go into spaces that people automatically think we have not only an attitude, but almost like a chip on our shoulder. And so like, I know you recognize this frame, we're known to be voluptuous. That has been a thing. And so I was imagining that while I was writing that, like a Black woman going into a space, because I'm a Black woman who go into spaces, and sometimes the way I talk or what I think or how vocal I am can be intimidating. Yeah.
Just speaking up, I've seen taking any type of leadership position, taking charge or something like. It doesn't
even, I mean, it could be something that's huge to us and minimal to someone else, and it's still intimidating. And I mean, and sometimes it needs to be talked about.
I think it needs to be
talked about a lot. It needs to be talked about not only within communities that don't look like us, but to each other. To the Black women who do it to one another, or the Black men that do it to the Black women. Like, that's a real thing. And so, like, no friction, nothing else, but like, let's talk about it. You're gonna get convicted. You're gonna either be confirmed. Like, I tell anyone, if I bring my art to the table, you're gonna be confirmed or convicted. It's really your choice.
Either go like it or hate it, love it or hate it. Yeah.
It's either way you learn it though. So let's do it. But
I definitely appreciate it.
But yeah, I think honestly that's what it stemmed from. Because a part of me finding myself over the past, like finding other parts of myself over the past year and working on myself was like, how do people perceive me? And not so I can change myself, so I can better understand how to communicate how they need to fix it.
I feel it.
So, yeah.
So, we can land the plane here, and I definitely want to thank you so much for taking the time out to come down and do this.
This is great, man.
And for you, I've already told you, but this is for the viewers, the listeners, is that I'm like handpicking these, this first round of people, people I know, people that I've created performed beside, just experience, some form of life with, and that's what you can be expecting from this. So you can, again, you may have some people that are just meeting for the first time, so you can give them a good send off.
Yes.
Do you have anything coming up? I know you have your book.
I do have my book. So you can find me on all social media at Yes, Angelina Dawn. And then you can also find my book Yellow in Amazon. And please, if you ever think that you can use your art for more than entertainment, know that you can. And please follow the listening at Welcome to the Listening on all major platforms. But no, seriously, I do want people to sit and think. There's two things I want to always leave people with is people, and it's really ironic. So if you really think about it as a poet, I tell people all the time that people may forget what you've said to them, but they'll never forget the way that you made them feel. And if you can use your art to make them feel something, that's super important. But no, seriously, if you had a room full of people willing to listen to you, what would you say?
And just that last part right there, I think you do that very well. It's not so much about, the specific words, but the feeling left, that you weave in the message into the feeling that is impressed on people. So I definitely want to
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you. And you will be seeing more of these. This is called Art-ish. And my biggest thing about this is unprotected text. I want to get into exactly what these creatives are saying. Because as she said, it's an impression thing, an entertainment thing. And we want you to be entertained. We want you to like what we produce and what we give you, but we also are communicating to you as people. So that's what this is for. So thank y'all.